All right, do we have sound now? I unmuted the wrong device. I think I got it right this time. On some active cases. The first case I want to talk about is Cash Gurnon. It's from last year. It's been right at about, I want to say, 14 months now. March, April, May, yeah, like 14 months. Cash Gurnon was a 4-year-old little boy who lived in Southwest Dallas under some weird circumstances. Father with the father's girlfriend slash not girlfriend while he supposedly went to Houston to look for work. Now, everybody involved, all the adults, had drug problems: the father, the mother, and the girlfriend slash not girlfriend. So I'll just call her the girlfriend. The girlfriend had Cash and his twin brother, whose name I won't say just to protect his privacy. It's out there, but I won't use it. I'll just call him Twin. So Cash and Twin lived with Monica Sherrod, that's the girlfriend, and Monica had children of her own. Her oldest son's name was Cameron. There's also a daughter whose name I cannot remember because she wasn't a major player in everything that happened and the aftermath. That daughter has a son. She's a teenager. I can't remember. She's like 16 or 17. She might be 18, but she's old enough to have a child of her own. And her child was maybe 1, 2 years old. I believe there was another sibling living in the house, but I'm not 100% sure. Well, Cash went missing early one morning. And if I recall correctly, some things kind of happened simultaneously. At the same time that Cash was being reported missing or being looked for at the house, a jogger actually found Cash's body in the street. He had been stabbed and brought back and laid in the street. So Monica reports Cash missing. Eventually, the two are connected, and it's determined that the child she's reporting missing is the child who was found in the street. Later on, a video came out where someone went into the bedroom, and it was on like one of those nanny cam, teddy bear cam things, phone camera things. So it had night vision. So the original video, which I'm going to play, is in black and white, and then there's another small section that happened after daylight, so it's in color. In the video, you see a tall, kind of slender male walk into the room, stand over the bed where the twins are sleeping, reaches over and touches one of them, but kind of backs up as if he got a little startled. And eventually he grabs one of them, leaves out of the room with him. There was a big to-do about whether the person in the video was the person who was eventually arrested and charged with murder, or if that person was Monica's oldest son, Cameron, because he and that person are similarly built, tall, slim. One has like short dreads, and then the person who was arrested, Darian Brown, has short dreads, and Cameron has short, like a short curly afro. Cameron is white. Darian is a very light-skinned black male. So on an infrared camera, it could have been either one of them. So Darian was eventually arrested. That's what this first news clip is. It's just kind of going over the latest status update, which is why I wanted to bring this case, because this is the latest news, and it came out, I believe, in February.
A man charged with murdering a 4-year-old Dallas boy after taking that sleeping child from his bed will not stand trial anytime soon. Hello, I'm Steve Eager.
And I'm Heather Hayes. Darian Brown was declared incompetent for trial. Police say Brown kidnapped 4-year-old Cash Gernon and repeatedly stabbed him. The boy's body was found on a neighborhood street. Fox 4's Alex Boyer takes us through the latest in this case. Alex.
Hi, guys. And this is the decision that his defense team was really hoping for. They maintained that Brown was hallucinating and in a trance-like state at the time of the murder and also suffers from other major depressive orders. Well, the prosecution brought in its own medical expert who also concluded that Brown is incompetent to stand trial. Inside this Dallas County courtroom Friday, a magistrate declared capital murder suspect Darian Brown incompetent to stand trial.
He can finally, now get the help that he needs so that he can assist us in his representation.
Heath Harris and Valerie Baston are Brown's defense attorneys. Brown was arrested last May and later indicted for the murder of 4-year-old Cash Gernon. Investigators said Brown was the man seen on home surveillance video taking Gernon from the bedroom where he was sleeping. Gernon was in the care of a woman who lived in a home off Saddle Ridge Drive in Dallas. She knew Brown. Gernon's body was found by a jogger 8 blocks away from the home on a neighborhood street the next morning. Investigators said the boy was stabbed to death.
Maybe someday we can, get to the facts of this case, which we believe are going to show that he does have a mental defect that potentially may have led to this tragedy, and that he may be entitled to an insanity defense.
The competency decision was made after the prosecution's own psychiatric expert determined after conducting a mental evaluation that Brown was unfit to stand trial. The defense's doctor came to the same conclusion months ago.
Both reports basically reflect what Mr. Harris and I have been experiencing with our client, Darian, that he is not competent and that he needs to get treatment.
Harris says Brown will likely be transferred to Vernon Psychiatric Hospital once a bed opens up.
Our society has rules regarding competency.
Dr. Robert Sanders is a former prosecutor and defense attorney. Sanders says it's possible Brown will never be deemed competent to stand trial. If he is, and the defense does indeed raise an insanity defense, the prosecution will have the burden to prove Brown knew that his actions were wrong.
In order for that insanity defense to work, he's got to be insane at the time of the act.
Brown's defense team knows the public wants answers.
We ask people to be patient in forming their opinions or their judgment about this.
And I contacted the district attorney's office after the hearing. A spokeswoman tells me that at this point, they have no comment.
Right.
My bad, and I'm just talking. Okay, so what I was saying, is that this is the one case in the last few years that I've come across where I think that this person actually legitimately is off like that. Like I don't think he was aware of what he was doing or the right or wrongness of it. My personal opinion is that he was manipulated into this. I don't think that it's something that he just came up with in his own mind. I'm going to go steal a kid and kill this kid. Then there's the whole situation with the house. Now, this was basically a trap house. From everything that came out and different conversations and interviews that were given, this was basically a trap house. The people who lived there were actively involved not only in selling drugs but also in using drugs. It's the kind of house where someone would always be awake because there's people going in and out. Now, the description of how he got this baby, basically, he would have had to break in a locked garage, then go in, get into the door from the garage to the kitchen. He would have had to walk all the way through the house, past people sleeping on like couches and things, past people's bedrooms, all the way to the very back of the house, which is where the room is that was set aside for the twins. All the way. Am I still muted? Okay, so he would have had to make his way all the way to the back of the house where the twins were. And then, after stealing this baby, he would have had to make it all the way back out past all that stuff again. And so, with the type of household that this was and the way that that house is, there was like stuff everywhere. I just don't see him being able to get in there, navigate to and from, not trip over something, not make a noise, bump into something in the dark, and be able to get out of this house with this baby without anyone seeing him. So, to me, the interviews that were given by both Monica Sherrod and her son Cameron, who lived in the house, to me, I feel like that one or both of them may have had something to do with this, most likely the son. Even though no one else has ever been arrested, I think maybe when they got Darian, they stopped looking. It was okay, we got our guy, case closed. Uh, this is also a case where a certain YouTuber got really, really involved in it, and it just became a whole scandal. If you go back and watch some of the videos, and I'll just say it was Benny Keys. He got really closely involved with Monica Sherrod, and the case became a major, major scandal. There were like channel wars going on and everything. But the next video that I'm about to play, this is the video from the camera that was in the boy's room that picked up the child being stolen out of the bed that night. Well, it was actually like just before dawn, like 5 o'clock in the morning or something. The child being stolen out of the bed. And then there's another section, I think it's in this video, that's in the daylight, so it has color. And it's that next morning when Darian Brown comes into the room and they say that he was coming back to get the other twin. I don't really think that's what happened. I think somebody sent him back there to make sure he was on the camera visible. Here it is. And there's no sound on this video. So that was the other twin right there that just got out of the bed. And you can see Cash like right over here on this end. He's sleeping on the opposite end. And the person is looking dead at the camera. There was also a lot of debate about that light that you just saw go across this window, that somebody was outside talking to him, that he was talking to somebody on a Bluetooth. He was being instructed. and that when he's looking off camera, he's talking to someone or someone is talking to him. I really wish there was sound on this video because I think it would have told a whole story with leaving nothing to question. Then you see his brother kind of wake up a little. And this is the next morning. This is the next morning, and they were saying that he was coming back to get the other twin. Hey, local Mike. He's looking for his brother, and he calls, and this is like the heartbreaking part. He comes back to the window and calls his brother's name. This is the Cash Gernon case, 4-year-old from Southwest Dallas who was taken from his bed and stabbed to death and left in the middle of the street a few blocks from his home. This happened last year, I believe it was in March. It might have been May because I saw that one of the videos that one of the creators I watched did on it was 11 months old. But it was a topic of conversation for a few months after it happened because there was the whole people were talking about it, and then Benny Keys got involved, so that was like a whole topic of conversation. And then Darian Brown was arrested, and so there was like a whole bunch of drawn out debate about that, about whether it was him or wasn't him. So this happened either in March or May of last year, but I'm pretty sure it was in March. And the update that I was bringing is that Darian Brown was found not competent to stand trial. So let me put this picture up. So this is Cash Gurdon, 4-year-old, and this is Darian Brown on the left, who is the one who is in jail currently, charged with. They gave him several murder charges. I think he had like 3 murder charges. He had kidnapping charges, burglary, and something else. Yeah, that video was a hot topic of conversation because people were saying that that wasn't him, Darian Brown, on there, that it was actually Cameron, the son of the woman whose house that was, and it was a mess. But now looking at that video, I looked really closely at the hair, and that looks like dreads, not curls, because that hair looks kind of straight. It doesn't look curly. So I believe it was him that went in there and got this baby, but I just still don't believe that he was solely responsible for those events. I believe something else because he had a reputation in the neighborhood for acting crazy and doing things and like threatening people, but there's no one that said he actually like did anything to them. There was the one incident where he went in someone's house and tried to take a toddler. So I'll say that there was that incident. He went into a person's house in the daytime and said that he was looking for his girlfriend. He kept calling some girl's name, and the person told him that she didn't live there. And so something happened, but he grabbed this little toddler, a little girl about 2 years old or something like that. He grabbed the little girl, and the grandfather wrestled the child away from him. The police were called, but no charges were pressed at that time. After he was arrested for this incident with Cash Gurdon being murdered, then charges were brought against him for the original incident where he went into the person's house and there was a struggle over the toddler. Which I had a problem with that because I feel like that if he was the neighborhood terror that everybody says that he was, right? And he went into someone's house and he tried to take a child, and this person is supposedly aware that he's a neighborhood terror, why not press charges? If indeed everything happened the way everyone says that it does, and I have no reason to believe that it didn't, but if everything happened that way, why not press charges? If that person had pressed charges about him coming in their house and apparently trying to just snatch their granddaughter away, then would Cash Gurdon still be alive? So, and it seems to me that maybe the police should have pressed charges anyway, but I have personal experience with Dallas Police Department and Dallas County Police Department, and I'm not surprised. They do as very little as they possibly can. They will find a way not to do something. Okay, the next case that I want to talk about is the Cold case. And this Cold case is really interesting. Like, it has its own Wikipedia page. Interesting. Came across this story years ago, way before YouTube was a thought. And the thing that always stuck with me about this case is the one guy in here, he has such a familiar face. They used to do a thing where they put missing people on the backs of playing cards or on the fronts of playing cards. And they would distribute them in like the county jails and the state prisons and federal prisons, so that inmates could see these people, as a way of trying to get the word out there, and maybe someone in that lifestyle would be able to say, oh yeah, I know what happened to that person or whatever. And apparently they did actually solve some cases that way. Well, people would bring those cards home or whatever, and then eventually they were available to the public too. I saw this dude on these cards and I was like, God, he looks so familiar. And even to this day, he looks like I know him. He looks like he used to be in my neighborhood when I was growing up. And I can't remember specifically knowing him or talking to him or hanging out with him, but he has that face. There's like a whole vibe about him that just says, I know him. Of course, you know, could just be one of those things. Everybody got to swing. But this case is interesting. And when I found out they had a Wikipedia page, I was like, oh yeah, this is. But there were two men, Terrence Williams, who you see on the left. Pull that picture up. Terrence Williams, he went missing in 2004. And this is Felipe Santos. He went missing in 2003. Both of these young men went missing after having an encounter with the same police officer, and then they disappeared under mysterious circumstances, never to be seen or heard from again. I am not as familiar with Felipe's case as I am with Terrence's case. With Terrence's case, he apparently had some car trouble. The officer stopped, found out that he had like a. The officer stopped, and what the officer says is that he gave him a ride and dropped him off at a Circle K so that he could get a ride to work or call someone or whatever. The officer later had the boy's car towed. It was just a whole scandal. So what we're going to do is get into this story. This is one that I would really, really like to see closure on. I've been following it for a long time. The disappearances of Terrence Williams and Felipe Santos. Terrence Williams and Felipe Santos went missing in 2004 and 2003, respectively, under similar circumstances in Naples, Florida, U.S. Both men were last seen being arrested by Steve Calkins, then a deputy in the Collier County Sheriff's Department, for driving without a license. Calkins claims that he changed his mind about both arrests and last saw the men after dropping them at Circle K convenience stores. On September 4th, 2018, actor, director, and producer Tyler Perry offered a $200,000 reward for any information leading to the location of the men or an arrest in the case. Al Sharpton of the National Action Network and Ben Jealous of the NAACP also joined Perry in raising awareness of the case. The disappearances were covered by multiple television shows, such as Investigation Discovery series Disappeared. On August 30th, 2018, a wrongful death lawsuit was filed against Calkins. The victims' families are being represented by civil rights attorney Benjamin Crump. The disappearance of Terrence Williams. On January 12, 2004, 27-year-old Terrence Williams went missing in Naples, Florida. Williams, a native of Chattanooga, Tennessee, and father of 4 children, had recently moved to Florida to be here near his mother, Marcia. Williams' roommate, Jason Gonzalez, said he spoke to Terrence on the phone on the evening of Sunday, January 11th, before heading to bed. Williams, who had attended a party that evening at a co-worker's house, did not then have a valid driver's license after being cited for driving under the influence, and the registration on his car had expired. He decided to drive to the party illegally after being unable to find another ride. Gonzalez became concerned when Williams did not return home and emailed Marcia on January 13th about his concerns. The Williams family called police and filed a missing persons report. Shortly afterward, Williams' aunt was able to track down his Cadillac, which had been towed from Naples Memorial Cemetery after obstructing traffic. The tow report was signed by Deputy Steve Calkins of the Collier County Sheriff's Department. The family contacted the Sheriff's Department and discovered that Calkins had not filed an incident report, nor had he made an arrest. This is Naples, Florida, Ra. Marcia contacted workers at the cemetery who told her that they witnessed Calkins pull Williams over and ask him for identification, which he did not have. Employees stated that Calkins patted Williams down and put him in the back of his patrol car. Before driving off with Williams, Calkins then asked the cemetery employees if he could leave the Cadillac in the lot. Calkins was witnessed returning to the cemetery between 15 minutes and an hour later and moving the Cadillac from a parking spot to the side of the road. This is the deputy who came back and moved the car from a parking spot where he had permission to leave it to the side of the road where it would be obstructing traffic. The car keys were found on the ground beside the car. Following this witness statement, the Williams family repeatedly called the sheriff's department asking to speak to Calkins. Excuse me. Upon being contacted by dispatch, Calkins claimed to have no memory of making any arrests or having any cars towed on the day of Williams' disappearance. He was contacted later and claimed to have a somewhat better recollection of his contacts with Williams. A few days later, Calkins' supervisors asked him to submit an incident report. Calkins' report states that he first came in contact with Williams at 12:15 p.m. after noticing that his car was driving in distress. Calkins claimed he followed Williams to the cemetery parking lot and that he had asked for a ride to a nearby Circle K convenience store because he was late for work. Williams did not work at the Circle K. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm so sleepy, but I didn't want to cancel this live. According to Calkins, after dropping him off at the Circle K, Williams told him Williams told him the paperwork for the car was in the vehicle's glove compartment. Calkins claimed that he returned to the Cadillac and discovered that the proper registration was not in the car and that he felt deceived. So he called Circle K from his work-issued cell phone and asked to speak to Williams. The clerk allegedly told him over the phone that Williams did not work there. According to the report, Calkins then called in the license plate number and found that the plates were expired. However, further investigation revealed that phone and surveillance records did not back up Calkins' story. There was no sign of Williams or Calkins on surveillance footage from the Circle K, and the phone records from Calkins' cell phone showed no call to the Circle K. Circle K employees were interviewed, and no witness could be found to place Calkins or Williams there. At this point, Marcia filed a complaint against Calkins. A new lead in the case surfaced when the Mexican consulate in Miami contacted Marcia to tell her about another man that had vanished in a similar fashion. Mexican immigrant Felipe Santos had gone missing 3 months prior after Calkins claimed he dropped him off at another Circle K, approximately 4 miles from the location where he claimed he dropped off Williams. Good night, Sleepy. Sorry, I know my yawning probably put her to sleep because she was already sleepy. I had planned to do like 2 more cases, but I am so tired that when we finish this one, I am going to call it a night. Okay, the disappearance of Felipe Santos. Felipe Santos, 24, was a Mexican national living illegally in the U.S. in nearby Immokalee, Florida. I think I said that right. He had been living in the U.S. For 3 years at the time of his disappearance and was sending money back to his family in Mexico. Santos was last seen October 1st, 2003 at approximately 6:30 a.m. He was driving to work with his 2 brothers when he was involved in a minor car accident in Naples. Calkins cited Santos for reckless driving and driving without a license or insurance and placed him in his patrol car. Santos was last seen riding away with Calkins. Later that day, Santos's boss contacted the county jail to post bail, and it was discovered that Santos was never booked. Calkins claimed that he changed his mind about the arrest because Santos was, quote, polite and cooperative, unquote. left him at a local Circle K, and drove off. The other driver in the accident contradicted that report, stating that Calkins was agitated about Santos' lack of documentation. He just stated that he was tired of pulling people over that didn't have licenses, she said. 2 weeks later, after Calkins submitted his incident report, Santos' family filed a missing persons report as well as a complaint against Calkins. An investigation cleared Calkins of any wrongdoing. Santos has not been seen or heard from since. His wife, Apollonia Cruz Cortez, has questioned the quality of the investigation into the disappearance, citing the fact that she has not been interviewed by investigators. Now, this is a prime example of how, there's that little joke in the community about the police saying we investigated ourselves and found no wrongdoing. This is a prime example of why in-house investigations into police misconduct are never a good idea, because had something been done 3 months earlier, then the second man may never have disappeared. Had something been done when Felipe was reported missing and they found all these inconsistencies in what this officer was saying and what the records proved, would they have found that there's more than these two men who had gone missing? So, I don't know. Further investigation. Further suspicion was cast on Calkins when a recording of his call to dispatch requesting the tow of Williams' car revealed further conflicting statements. So he was lying left and right. In this recording, Calkins described the car as abandoned and blocking the road. The statement contradicted both his incident report and the witness statements, both of which reported that Calkins himself moved the vehicle to its location, blocking the road. Calkins joked with the operator, maybe he's out there in the cemetery. He'll come back and his car will be gone. He was also heard using inappropriate language during the call, describing the car as a, quote, homie Cadillac, unquote, and as a piece of junk Cadillac. Calkins defended his misstatements to the operator, telling investigators that he was just joking around with a coworker. Calkins insisted he moved the car to assist the towing company as opposed to attempting to make it look abandoned. Boy, even I see all those lies. So you moved it out of a parking slot into the street and then you call it in and say it needs to be towed because it's blocking traffic, but it wasn't blocking traffic until you moved it. Approximately 20 minutes later at 1:12 p.m., Calkins requested a background check on Terrence Williams, giving an inaccurate birth date, a specific date that Williams had previously given police when he was arrested. This contradicts Calkins' earlier statement that he never knew Williams' last name or any other personal details. In this instance, the main person of interest in the case was a police officer, so the Florida Department of Law Enforcement and the FBI were called in to work on the case. Various investigative techniques were used, including the covert placement of a GPS device on Calkins' vehicle and a forensic investigation of the patrol car. Cadaver dogs were used to survey the areas identified by GPS, but these turned up no further evidence. Calkins was subsequently fired from the department for providing conflicting information about both missing person cases and for not cooperating with the investigation. This is a hot mess. A hot mess. He's so busy lying that he's tripping over his own tongue lying, and people are just like, yeah, nothing to see here. Keep moving. So, increased publicity. The case went without any leads for a number of years until 2012, when a number of national programs began covering the case, including Disappeared, Anderson Cooper 360, and Dateline NBC. In 2017, the investigation discovery series Deadline, Crime with Tamron Hall, investigated the disappearances of Williams and Santos. Entertainment mogul Tyler Perry went on Al Sharpton's MSNBC talk show to discuss the disappearances. offering a $200,000 reward for information in connection with the cases. The theories. One popular theory. Let's see, it says, hey, this is Hands Off My podcast. Here's just one. Hey, Hands Off, welcome. First time I've seen you in here. Thanks for joining. One popular theory for the disappearances is the Starlight Tour theory. The term originated in the Canadian province of Saskatchewan and describes the practice of police driving individuals to the edge of town or outside of city limits and abandoning them to find their own way home. The practice came to light in 2000 when an Indigenous Canadian man named Daryl Knight reported being picked up by a police officer after leaving a party, driven to the outside of town, then dropped off in a rural area in freezing conditions. Knight survived after finding a nearby power plant staffed by a security guard. The next morning, another Indigenous man named Rodney Nistus was found frozen to the ground near where Knight was dropped off. Lawrence Wagner, also Indigenous, was found deceased weeks later in the same area. According to Russ Sabo, Saskatoon's new police chief, evidence exists that similar drop-offs have gone on since at least the 1970s. A number of podcasts have explored the theory that Santos and Williams were dropped off in the nearby Everglades and died of exposure or other perils. So, nothing ever came of this. I would be interested to know the outcome of the civil lawsuit. And I'll check on that. They just filed it in 2018, so there should be some information about that. Let's see. Steve Calkins civil lawsuit. This is from 2022. Let's say in the past year. Let's see what this is saying. Florida wrongful death lawsuit envelops Cedar Rapids man and former deputy. A Cedar Rapids man who was a former Florida sheriff's deputy being sued by the family of a man who went missing in 2004 after a traffic stop may face a civil jury trial if a judge doesn't accept a recent arbitration decision. According to the lawsuit, Stephen H. Calkins, now 66, came to Cedar Rapids years after the 2003 and 2004 cases in which two men went missing after being placed in the back of his patrol car. An investigation led to Calkins being fired from the Collier County Sheriff's Department in Naples, Florida area. He has never been charged in either case. Wait a minute. According to the lawsuit, Stephen H. Calkins, now 66, came to Cedar Rapids years after. Okay, so he moved to Cedar Rapids from wherever he was living. Calkins is believed to be the last known person to have seen Felipe Santos, 23, and an immigrant from Mexico, and Terrence D. Williams, 27, a black man, both of Naples, according to authorities and the lawsuit. Both men were declared dead after 5 years of being missing. The case remains open investigations. The cases remain open investigations. Williams' mother, Marcia Williams, filed a wrongful death lawsuit in 2018 against Calkins, who is white, in the hope of providing more evidence to further a criminal investigation against him. Her attorneys said at the time, according to the Naples Daily News and other news reports. The lawsuit asserts that Calkins' acts caused Williams' disappearance and death. Mother's Tallahassee attorney, well-known civil rights lawyer Ben Crump, didn't respond last week to emails seeking comment. Calkins couldn't be reached for comment through a telephone number available in public records. Calkins' Naples attorney, John Hooley, declined to comment, but did point out the arbitration decision in November found there was a lack of evidence in the case. A judge entered the arbitration as final word in the case, meaning Calkins is not responsible for the disappearance, but that action is now being contested. The lawsuit gained national attention let me try that again. The lawsuit gained national attention when it was filed because it involved Crump, an actor and film director, Tyler Perry, who commented on the case on social media and in People magazine, according to the Naples Daily News and other outlets. Perry also offered a reward, which has grown to $200,000 for information about the disappearances. So he was found to be not responsible in the civil lawsuit, but that's basically on appeal. I don't see how anyone could. Well, I mean, there is kind of a lack of evidence. Like, there's nothing directly to say he did this. It's just circumstantial because it's odd that he was the last person to see both of them. Both of them were supposedly arrested. He lied a lot in both cases. Turns out neither one of them was arrested. He claims to have dropped them off somewhere, but nobody can verify that. No security footage verifies it. As a matter of fact, security footage contradicts what he said. Phone records contradicts what he said. So I kind of feel like circumstantially, there's all kind of red flags and bells ringing saying guilty. But on solid evidence, nothing. I mean, you got cadaver dogs, you got all kinds of searches, you got the FBI, the FDLE, you got everybody looking and nobody's finding anything. But he is a cop, so I'm sure he knew ways to get rid of people and not get caught. Well, guys, I'm gonna get out of here. I need to get some sleep. I've had a very long and busy day. I will continue with the next part of the death of Felicia Williams Wednesday at 5 p.m. That will be the second part of the Granville Ritchie police interrogation. After that, we'll do a live probably Thursday or Friday and just talk about it. Just talk about that case and what was going on in it. Because there is a whole lot to unpack between Ebony Wiley and Granville Ritchie. There is a whole lot to unpack, and I probably should have done a live after Ebony's just to unpack her. So we may unpack Ebony and then do an unpacking on Granville at another time. We'll see how it goes. But definitely Wednesday, we'll have the last part of Granville Ritchie's interrogation, and then Thursday or Friday we'll do a live and just talk about the interrogations and the inconsistencies and just the craziness of that whole case. If I can get me some rest tomorrow, I will come back and finish up the cases that I wanted to present today, because I got notes over here on a few other cases, including Corey Bigsby. As we know, his father was denied a bail for the third time. So thanks, guys, for joining, and I will see you next time.